Welcome back to Tales from the Long Box. If you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know this isn't the first time we've dove deep into the forgotten corners of the Marvel Universe. We've proven that just because a hero isn't headlining the latest summer blockbuster doesn't mean they don't have an incredible story and aren't worth bringing back. But the Marvel Universe is vast, and its dustiest archives still hold dozens of characters who desperately deserve the spotlight. This time we'll unearth the World War II hero who walks around as a literal flaming skeleton, the scientist who turned to crime just to pay the bills, the vampire detective who hates blood, the nice guy who got the universe's ultimate power, and the unfortunate Fantastic Four member whose entire career was one long agonizing trauma. Get ready to meet 5 more forgotten heroes of the Marvel comic universe. Blazing Skull. The Blazing Skull, Mark Anthony Todd, isn't just a forgotten hero, he's a foundational character of the Marvel Universe, who time and editorial changes have unfairly overlooked. His debut came back in 1941 in Mystic Comics number 5 from Timely Comics, Marvel's predecessor, placing him squarely in the Golden Age along icons like Captain America and the original Human Torch, proving he belongs in the very first tier of Marvel's early champions. And yet somehow, this genuine artifact of World War II history remains little more than a trivia question. It's a testament to Marvel's brilliant ability to sideline its own legacy. Todd's entire existence is a compelling piece of war-era pulp fiction that began when he was a foreign correspondent, covering the Second Sino-Japanese War. His life changed forever during an artillery bombardment that forced him to take refuge in a remote cave system where he stumbled upon a fantastic, quasi-mythological race known only as the Skullmen. These beings, whose heads are quite literally burning skeletons, were not villains but ancient mystics. They declared that Todd had been chosen to be the champion of freedom, and put him through a rigorous, otherworldly training program, bestowing upon him 2 crucial abilities: complete immunity to all forms of fire, and a powerful regenerative healing factor. This healing ability would later be key in explaining his astonishing longevity across decades of Marvel history, allowing him to be resurrected for modern stories without needing a cryogenic sleep or time travel. The most visually arresting and signature ability of the Blazing Skull is the power to turn his flesh invisible, revealing a frightening, white-hot blazing skeleton underneath his clothes. This chilling, supernatural aesthetic, complete with a terrifying bare skull, is what sets him apart from other heroes of this time. Naturally, Marvel decided this unique horror aesthetic was too much, so they just let the later, entirely separate, much cooler looking Ghost Rider steal the spotlight with basically the same head. Furthermore, his adventures suffered from the shifting nature of Golden Age publishing, where his bio was inconsistent. He was alternately described as a foreign correspondent, a district attorney, or a simple amateur criminologist, creating continuity snags that made his character difficult to manage or revive. Despite these issues, he was officially retconned into aiding the Invaders, Marvel's primary World War II super team, against the threat of the Axis powers, firmly cementing his status as a legitimate World War II veteran. Like many costume heroes after the 1940s, the Blazing Skull simply vanished from publication, but his regenerative healing factor kept him alive. For most of the late 20th century, he existed only in dusty reprint collections. When he was finally reintroduced to the modern timeline in the mid-2000s, he was always in supporting roles. Following the Civil War storyline, Mark Todd was recruited into the government's 50-state initiative, and where this original champion of freedom ended up, he was assigned to the New Jersey Defenders, a team frequently highlighted for its B-lister status and quirky roster, because of course, the mystic, long-lived veteran gets the New Jersey assignment. Such glamour. During this period, writers allowed bizarre past to manifest as an equally bizarre personality. Despite walking around as a blazing corpse, Mark Todd had a tendency toward deadpan humor, often referring to his colleagues with ridiculous on-the-spot nicknames, or making unnerving small talk about his own decomposition. The Blazing Skull is more than a novelty. It offers unique narrative opportunities that no other hero can match. Marvel needs to stop treating him like a joke and embrace his potential as a terrifying, yet notable hero. His powers make his own flesh invisible while keeping his skeleton visible is visually distinct and horrifying, making him the perfect foil to characters with powerful healing factors like Wolverine or Deadpool, where his exposed skeleton is a constant unnerving reminder of mortality. Furthermore, his origin deep within the horrors of Second Sino-Japanese War provides a powerful theme of war trauma. He is a man with the healing factor who is trained by Skullmen, positioning him as a living, burning monument to the cost of eternal conflict. Finally, the ancient mantle of the Champion of Freedom gives him a narrative of depth that you could pit against him a new threat tied to the Skullmen's mystical legacy, or force him to train a new, younger champion who views him as a dangerous relic. The Blazing Skull is a veteran, a mystic, and a horror hero all rolled into one, and it's high time Marvel let his forgotten flame burn brightly again. The Rocket Racer, a genius trapped in the grind. Robert Farrell, the original Rocket Racer, is a character whose narrative is tragically defined by one simple, unrelenting reality: necessity. Born and raised in Brooklyn, the eldest of 7 children, his life took a harsh turn when his mother, Emma Johnson Farrell, passed away. This instantly elevated young Robert to the role of caretaker and sole provider. He wasn't a slacker or a violent thug. Robert was a certified scientific prodigy with a gifted intellect. But genius doesn't always pay the rent or feed 6 siblings. When legitimate avenues failed him, he made the calculated, desperate choice to turn to a life of crime as the Rocket Racer. Robert's introduction to the Marvel Universe establishes his competence and desperation immediately. As Rocket Racer, he successfully executed a snatch and grab, and let's be honest, it takes a special kind of criminal genius to outpace the world's greatest wall crawler. His first defeat wasn't about lack of skill, but bad luck. The second act cemented his cycle of bad decisions. Driven by need, after upgrading his tech with the help of the Tinkerer, Robert was hired by the crooked politician Jackson Will to steal incriminating evidence. But Robert wasn't just a hired hand, he was smarter than his boss. He kept the most damning evidence to blackmail Will, a move that showcased his criminal mind but also his moral confusion. In a darkly comic turn, Will was so broken by the blackmail that he tried to take his own life, only for Robert to stop him, mocking him with the nickname Big Wheel. Will in turn hired the Tinkerer to build him a massive, terrifying vehicle called the Big Wheel, a literal giant motorized wheel just to kill the Rocket Racer. The irony is perfect. The desperate genius Robert created the tech that inspired his own nemesis, turning his brilliant invention into a symbol of personal trauma. Robert's story quickly shifted into a constant, frustrating cycle of reform and relapse, perfectly embodying a struggle familiar to many communities in comics. Spider-Man sees the good in him and pulls him out of the fire, sponsoring a high school equivalence test, which Robert, the scientific prodigy, scores perfectly on, earning a scholarship to Empire State University. This promising new path is immediately complicated. While at ESU, he fights a white supremacist student named Eddie the Croc. During their confrontation, Robert fires a micro-rocket, accidentally dousing Eddie with Spider-Man's powerful new web form. The result? Eddie transforms into the villain Skinhead. It just seems like whenever Robert tries to do the right thing, his bad decisions and powerful tech have consequences, turning him into an accidental villain. He attempts to go legit, becoming a freelance operative for Silver Sable International, alongside the Outlaws. He's hired to stop Speed Demon from retrieving a nuclear device, take down a runaway subway robot. A legitimate paycheck isn't enough to cover his enormous responsibility, leading him to take a disastrous gamble in the great game with the Prowler. Robert intended to cheat the system and split the earnings, but the move resulted in the Prowler being critically injured and Robert only surviving with a broken arm. Another reminder that his attempts to get rich quick always end in pain for those around him. Robert Farrell, at his core, is an engineer who wants to be a hero, but financial reality constantly pulls him down. His theme is brutally cemented when he briefly joins the MODOK's 11. This is a tragic pinnacle of his story. A genius forced into supercrime, Robert is reduced to a stuttering nervousness by the situation, clearly hating himself. He has a trick up his sleeve, been working for S.H.I.E.L.D. all along. This twist attempts to save his integrity, but ultimately he fails to deliver the promised item, and his story ends with another brief hope for redemption, joining the Avengers Academy. But he quickly chooses the engineer life over the hero life, accepting a job at Briggs Chemical LLC to pay for his siblings' college. Robert Farrell possesses no superhuman powers. His genius is his true power. Cybernetically controlled, jet-powered magnetic skateboard and mini rocket gauntlets are brilliant, highly functional pieces of tech that allow him to stick to walls, glide at incredible speeds, and fire small missiles. The reason Marvel needs a Rocket Racer revival is that his story is one of a few that genuinely addresses the systematic poverty and opportunity gap in the superhero genre. He's not a villain because he's evil, he's a villain because he needs money. A new series could lean into the original pitch by Rick Remender, which was sadly cancelled. Robert should be working as an engineer at Stark or Richards' facility by day, using his genius to help humanity, only for a new financial crisis to force the Rocket Racer to come out and do dirty work by night. Robert Farrell is the story of a hero who fails, not because of a moral flaw, but because the world is rigged against him. Tragic engineer is waiting for his overdue paycheck, and his story deserves to be told. Hannibal King, tragic detective trapped by the bloodline. Hannibal King is perhaps the most tragic figure on this list. A true classic noir detective who was cursed with immortality, condemned by an impossible vow, and perpetually forced to be the sidekick to greater supernatural stars. King debuted in The Tomb of Dracula No. 25 in 1974, emerging from the heart of Marvel's 1970s horror boom. A private investigator based in Milwaukee, his life was violently upended in London when he took on a fateful case and was bitten and killed by the legendary vampire Deacon Frost. Horrified to awaken as one of the undead, King immediately made a vow, a true testament to his human willpower, that he would never, under any circumstances, take the lifeblood of a living human. This is his entire struggle. A detective with a massive, soul-crushing handicap who refuses to consume the one thing that his body demands, making his every single night a battle of existential abstinence. Because he adheres to this impossible code, King subsists only on blood stolen from blood banks or occasionally the blood of corpses or animals, forever remaining a clean vampire. This unique status allows him to continue his detective work, but only under the suffocating restrictions of night, making him the ultimate shadowed private eye. His career soon entangled him with the major players of Marvel's horror universe. His quest for revenge against his maker, Deacon Frost, eventually brought him into contact with the legendary vampire hunter Blade, whose mother was also a victim of Frost. Together, the mismatched duo formed a fragile alliance and ultimately achieved their shared goal, the destruction of Deacon Frost. King's defining narrative moment came in the early 1980s with the climactic storyline surrounding the Montesi formula. After meeting Doctor Strange, King joined forces with Strange, Blade, and Frank Drake to confront Dracula and the Darkholder, the worshippers of the demonic text, the Darkhold. Using the book, Strange cast the Montesi formula, a powerful spell intended to eliminate all vampires from the face of the earth. King was not destroyed, a direct result of his iron-willed vow. Because he had never taken blood from a living human being, the foreman recognized a shred of his original humanity. To complete his purification, Doctor Strange performed a complete blood transfusion, restoring Hannibal King to human form, a redemption hard-won after years of suffering. However, in Marvel Comics, redemption is often temporary. Strange, Blade, and Drake established Borderline Investigation, a detective agency designed to combat the lingering supernatural threats that emerged as the Montesi formula began to weaken. During this period, Strange determined that King had become a neo-vampire, retaining most of his powers: superhuman speed, strength, hypnosis, the ability to turn to a mist or a wolf, and the ability to control rats, but needing blood less urgent. Despite his human status, the vampire curse was too ingrained. In later encounters, particularly against the vampire king Varney, King was resurrected with his powers fully intact, returning to his status as a regular vampire with all the traditional strengths and debilitating weaknesses: sunlight, garlic, silver, and religious symbols. This tragic cycle of reform and relapse is the core of King's obscurity. In a 2-issue solo series, he was forced to turn a critically injured CIA agent into a vampire at her desperate plea to save her life. When she became a deadly, ruthless vampire agent, King was so devastated by the failure of his vow that he fell into a deep professional depression, retiring from his detective work. Hannibal King is an excellent detective, a good marksman, and possesses an extraordinary sense of will, yet he is consistently positioned as the tragic figure, the one who can't win against his own nature, constantly overshadowed by the cooler, more marketable action Blade. The reason he deserves a revival is that he is the perfect supernatural film noir lead. His struggle is not against an external enemy, but against his own biology. Marvel could focus on his detective work in a modern true crime horror series, showing him use his vampire senses and rat spies to solve impossible cases, forever battling the ethical tightrope of his condition. His tragedy is the story of a good man who could never truly escape the night. Quasar, every man who was too nice for space. Quasar, Wendell Vaughn, is one of Marvel's most compelling yet most consistently forgotten cosmic heroes. His story isn't one of royalty or alien heritage, but of an ordinary man from Wisconsin who was simply too nice to be a hero. He debuted in 1978 but was truly established in 1979 as Quasar, and later gave in a substantial 60-issue solo series in 1989 written by Mark Grunwald. This run proved that he wasn't just another flashy name. He's deliberately designed to be the everyman counterpoint to the noble, driven archetypes like the Silver Surfer and Captain Marvel. Wendell Vaughn graduated from S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy, highly trained and capable, but his career was immediately stunted. His superiors deemed him unfit for field work, not due to his lack of skill, but because he lacked the necessary killer instinct, the will to win at all costs. This failure led to his mundane first assignment, security detail at a research facility studying the quantum bands. Bands originally meant for the Kree hero Mar-Vell as a protector of the universe proved volatile. A test pilot attempting to wield them perished when the energy output reached critical mass. When AIM attacked the facility, Vaughn was forced to don the bands. When the massive energy buildup threatened to overwhelm him, instead of fighting the power or asserting his will, Vaughn simply chose to relax and go with the flow. To his surprise, the energy dissipated immediately. He realized the bands, cosmic weapons capable of manipulating virtually all forms of energy, creating solid energy constructs, generating teleportation portals via the quantum zone, didn't need an uncompromising aggressive will. They needed a flexible accepting. Vaughn's lack of a killer instinct didn't make him unfit for field work. It made him the only suitable wielder of one of the universe's greatest weapons. He accepted the title of Protector of the Universe from cosmic entity Eon, became the reluctant, aw shucks hero who was constantly out of his depth. Quasar's solo title saw him quickly escalating from dealing with Earth-based threats, battling beings of pure cosmic terror. He took on Maelstrom, battled Thanos at Eon's funeral, and was inducted into the Avengers. But while his series was critically acclaimed, sales never quite matched his cosmic stature, eventually leading to cancellation in issue number 60. It turns out, audience preferred their cosmic heroes to be tortured, shirtless aliens, and not nice guys from Wisconsin who just happened to be given ultimate power. His most notable failure came during the Infinity War crossover, facing off against the godlike Magus. Quasar attempted to wield the near-omnipotent Ultimate Nullifier. Magnus instantly reversed the weapon's effect, tragically wiping Quasar from existence. He only resurrected himself through the unexpected use of the Starbrand. But the moment solidified his place as the guy who almost saved the universe, only to be turned into dust. Following more threats, including being consumed by Ego the Living Planet, Quasar eventually exiled himself into space, realizing his everyman personality simply wasn't built for the pressures of saving reality. Wendell's most enduring curse is his inability to hold on to his identity. During the Annihilation event in 2006, Quasar was brutally killed by a nihilist, ending his heroic run. While the creative team wisely realized the character was too useful to stay dead, his return was slow and sporadic. He returned first as a spirit, then as a physical form, before ultimately making the fatal mistake of willingly giving up the quantum bands to a younger new hero. During the Avengers standoff storyline, Wendell grew concerned. He was losing control of the bands, and in a moment of pure selfless mentorhood, bestowed them upon a young S.H.I.E.L.D. agent named Hannibal King. This act would officially retire the Everyman. Wendell continued to mentor her, only reacquiring the bands after Aval's apparent demise, resuming the mantle of Quasar in 2021 for last Annihilation event. This cycle, acquiring the mantle, being overwhelmed, dying, and passing it on, has happened so many times that the name of Quasar has become more famous than Wendell Vaughn himself. Wendell Vaughn is crucial because he represents genuine humility in a universe full of narcissists and gods. He uses the power of the universe's ultimate weapon, not to conquer, but to secure his home planet and go home for a cup of coffee. The modern Quasar story should embrace his role as a reluctant cosmic diplomat. The one hero the space empires can trust because he lacks ambition and the killer instinct. He's the ultimate nice guy with the universe's most powerful accessories. The Marvel Universe desperately needs his brand of humble heroism today. Sharon Ventura, the hero who deserved better. Sharon Ventura, the She-Thing, is one of Marvel's greatest unintentional horror stories. A woman slowly ground down by bad luck, worse writing, and an editorial department that treated her like a crash test dummy for suffering. Created by Mike Carlin and Ron Wilson, The Thing number 27, 1985, Sharon starred as a thrill-seeker, stunt performer, lion tamer, and deep-sea diver all rolled into one dangerously determined person. Her father's impossible expectations left her chasing approval from a ghost, throwing herself into danger just to feel something that wasn't due. Then she met Ben Grimm and entered the bizarre world of the Unlimited Class Wrestling Federation, where she was juiced up by the power broker and his pet mad scientist, Dr. Carl Malus, the kind of guy who probably thinks OSHA is a myth. The process made her strong, but it also broke her in ways that Marvel never really fit. She took the name Miss Marvel, which at this point should come with a warning label about incoming trauma, and became yet another victim of grim storytelling disguised as character death. Things got even worse when she joined the Fantastic Four and was bombarded with cosmic rays, transforming her into the She-Thing, a literal rock woman who became a living reflection of the man she loved. It should have been poetic. Instead, it was just kinda cruel. Her rocky form turned her self-hatred into a physical reality, and instead of exploring her resilience, writers doubled down on her pain. Even Dr. Doom showed up pretending to help her, only to manipulate her into betraying her friends. Because apparently even the most powerful women on the team couldn't get through a storyline without being someone's punk. Eventually, Sharon's spiral ended with her joining the Frightful Four, briefly turning her grief into power before Marvel yanked that victory away too. By the time Secret Invasion rolled around, Sharon had been through enough tragedy for 3 lifetimes. So what did Marvel do? They brought her back, as a Skrull imposter. Her grand return wasn't even her. That's the final joke, a sad hollow punchline, but real Sharon survived somewhere off-panel, quietly removed from continuity. Like Marvel didn't know what to do with a woman who refused to stay broken. But that's exactly why she deserves a revival now. In an era where Marvel's rediscovering empathy, Sharon Ventura could finally matter again. Not as a pity case, but as a survivor. Imagine her resurfacing in the Southwest, running a small gym or stunt training studio, mentoring young heroes who've been through the same psychological blender. She's older now, built like a boulder with opinions, the kind of person who gives advice that sounds half inspirational, half like a threat. When a rookie hero whines about their powers, she just smirk and say, "You're not broken, you're just unfinished." Her dynamic with Ben could finally come full circle. Not romantic, but mutual understanding. Two people who've worn the same curse and learned to live with it. Doesn't need a cure or redemption. Just needs to exist again, as living proof that strength isn't about what you look like. It's about what's left after everything's been taken. Sharon Ventura was never the monster Marvel made her out to be. She was hero forged in chaos, molded by cosmic rays and editorial cruelty, still standing after everyone stopped paying attention. If Marvel ever decides to dig her out of the rubble, they don't need to reinvent her, they just need to let her speak. And there you have it, 5 more heroes ripped from the footnotes of Marvel history. Saw the Blazing Skull, the literal flaming skeleton of World War II. Met the Rocket Racer, the brilliant scientist whose greatest enemy wasn't a villain but the soul-crushing reality of poverty. Followed Hannibal King, the noir detective who just wants to solve his cases before the sun comes up. Traveled the cosmos with Quasar, the quintessential everyman whose greatest virtue, humility, is why his identity keeps getting replaced. And finally, we endured the tragic story of Shiva, Sharon Ventura, whose entire career was a brutal cycle of abuse and transformation. These 5 stories prove that the most compelling narratives in the Marvel Universe often lie far outside the Avengers or X-Men. They prove that obscurity isn't a measure of quality. It's often a result of bad luck, poor editorial choices, or stories that were simply too dark or too complex for the mainstream. But every view, every like, and every comment on this video just might bring these characters one step closer to the spotlight they deserve. And speaking of support, if you love the content that I make and want to help the channel continue pulling these awesome characters out of the long box, please consider checking out my Ko-Fi. The link is in the description below. Every little bit goes a long way toward researching the next forgotten legend. So tell me in the comments down below, which of these 5 forgotten heroes deserve a solo series more than anyone else? Let me know who we should cover next time. Whether it's another Golden Age weirdo, a cosmic deep cut, or a forgotten team. I've got a list going, but I can always add more. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, I'll catch you in the next one.